Four University of Idaho students were brutally murdered. Surveillance cameras in the neighborhood captured crucial video which led to the arrest of the suspect. That video shows a white Hyundai Elantra passing by the victim's home several times before parking. Tonight, we return to the scene of the crime to retrace the path to gain a clearer understanding of how and when the killer entered the home.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us here on Closing Arguments. I want to begin tonight by talking about evidence. And let's begin with what many people consider the gold standard in criminal cases, DNA. DNA is great evidence, but it does have some limitations. We know DNA can put a suspect, a criminal, at the scene of a crime, but it's always circumstantial evidence. It doesn't prove the case. It's not direct evidence of the crime, but you can put that criminal at the scene of the crime. So it's very powerful, but has limitations. Because if you obtain DNA at the scene of a crime and you have it on a murder weapon or some blood that's on the ground, whatever form you have it in, that's fantastic. But you've got to find the source, so you have to compare it to some other DNA. And if the suspect you're looking for is not in the DNA database, there'll be no match. There's no match. If that suspect hasn't been arrested before, hasn't put their DNA into the system or had their DNA placed into the system, then you've got DNA, but you've got no match. So, you've got so many unsolved cases like that. You have the DNA, but the person has never been caught doing anything, and they're not on 23andMe. That's why you need a suspect, someone to compare the DNA to. So you need other evidence. So I said, DNA is great, but has its limitations in solving a crime. Now, cell phones. These days, great evidence, digital footprints, what people are saying and doing and texting on their cell phones, amazing insight into the mind of a suspect, into the mind of a criminal. You know what they're thinking, what they're doing, what they're saying. You can also track where they are if they have their cell phone. But there are some limitations. First thing is you could turn your cell phone off. All right, you're gonna go commit a crime, I'm gonna turn it off. I'm not gonna have it on when I go to commit this crime. That way, they'll never track me there. Or you can leave your cell phone at home. We had a criminal defendant in a death penalty case who did that. Left his cell phone at home and used that as his alibi. Investigators found his burner phone, though. He was convicted. But again, cell phones, absolutely amazing evidence, but has some limitation. How about surveillance cameras? There are no buts about cameras, none. And the reason I say that is the camera shows you what it shows you. You can see it happen. If there's a surveillance camera that shows and records the crime, that is direct evidence. Better than an eyewitness. Better than an eyewitness, because you don't have to, you don't have to rely upon someone's memory. You just roll the video. Take a look. Who is it? What does it show? What did they do? Where did they go? When were they there? Fantastic evidence when you have it. Now, in some cases, it may not be the direct evidence of the case because it may not show you the crime itself. But it may show you where someone is at a particular time, or where a car is, where someone is walking, when they were walking. Just like DNA, surveillance video can place you at or near the scene of the crime at the time of the crime. The great thing about surveillance video comes with a timestamp as well. DNA, not so much. Now, in this case, in Idaho, investigators have put all of these different types of evidence together and pieced it together and revealed it to us and to the defendant in the probable cause affidavit that outlined part of their case. The evidence that they believe proves that this defendant committed a quadruple murder in Moscow, Idaho on November 13th. Videos, cell phone, DNA, timestamps, very, very specific timestamps. And Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter took that probable cause affidavit, put it all together, and lays out the prosecution's timeline.
The family of the victims and millions around the country have frantically searched for clues about what happened on the night Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogen, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle were brutally murdered. The probable cause affidavit provides some answers. It lays out a timeline of what prosecutors say happened during those early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. At 2 a.m., all the roommates are home after a night out. Kernodle's boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, is also at the house. The address is 1122 King Road. At 2:47 a.m., Bryan Kohberger's cell phone allegedly shows he's traveling south through Pullman, Washington. And right then, the phone stops, reporting to the cell network. The affidavit states police obtained numerous surveillance videos from homes and businesses that capture a white sedan on November 13th. It's 3:26 a.m. when video captures what police say is Kohberger's 2015 white Hyundai Elantra traveling westbound on Indian Hills Drive. This is 5 minutes from the victim's home. Starting at 3:29 a.m., home surveillance videos caught multiple sightings of that same car passing through the King Road neighborhood. Around 4 a.m. is when surviving roommate Dylan Mortensen wakes up to the sounds of what she believes is Kaylee Gonsalves in the room directly above her playing with her dog. Dylan says a short time later she heard who she thought was Kaylee say, "There's someone here." Dylan looks out the door of her bedroom and doesn't see anyone. At 4:04 a.m., Kohberger's vehicle returns to this area for the fourth time. It turns on Queen Street here, moving eastbound past the crime scene in this direction. Past these apartment complexes, police say surveillance video picks up that white car making a turn. Then the vehicle heads back this direction towards the crime scene. At 4:12 a.m., Xana is using the TikTok app on her phone. At an unknown time, Dylan Mortensen hears what she believes to be crying coming from Xana Kernodle's bedroom. She opens her bedroom door for a second time, sees nothing, but hears a male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." At about 4:17 a.m., a security camera from this residence picks up distorted audio of what sounds like voices or a whimper, a loud thud, and a dog barking. The affidavit states that at some point, Dylan opens her door for a third time to look because she hears crying. This time, she sees a man in black clothing with a mask covering his mouth and nose. It's 4:20 a.m. when surveillance video again allegedly captures Kohberger's vehicle. This time, it's seen leaving the area, driving away at a high speed.
They have this timeline down. It seems investigators have put this all together. You need to do it in this case. You absolutely need to. And it looks like they are there. If everything that's in that affidavit they can bring inside that courtroom. Right now, let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, joins us tonight outside of the crime scene. She's in Moscow, Idaho tonight. Chanley, great job putting all that together. My understanding is there was some more action today at the house behind you, the scene of these 4 murders. What was going on?
Yeah, Vinny, we arrived here. We were going to compile some new video and content for your show this evening, and all of a sudden, about half a dozen vehicles, mostly pickup trucks, showed up right here where I'm standing. They took down the crime scene tape and then one by one meticulously pulled into this driveway behind me. Right now, there's the private security guard company guarding the house, but here's a video of what they were doing. We observed them putting in the first things, these mattresses into the back of the pickup trucks, taking out bags of potential evidence like that. You see them putting into the back of the trucks, and also boxes, as well as wrapped items. You know, they would take brown paper material, wrap items that look kind of like stools or side tables or nightstands, that kind of thing, trying to cover some of the evidence up. Potentially, maybe there could be some biological blood type, what we presume maybe to be some blood on some of this type of evidence. So they were trying to shield it. There's a red cover on that piece of item you see there, shield it from the media standing around the border of the crime scene. They spent several minutes here. I'd probably say around 30 minutes going in and out of the home before they pulled off here, where we could get a better look at kind of what they were putting in the trunk there in that video as they drove past me here. But it's interesting. They're mostly the Idaho State Police investigators. These are some of the same familiar faces I've been seeing here at this crime scene, Vinny, for weeks. When we were here back on week one of this investigation, I was noticing especially this investigator in the blue shirt and some of these familiar faces here again today. And this is again activity here at this home after they halted the remediation, the cleanup of this crime scene a week ago today on defense motion, and the judge entering an order preserving this crime scene to at least February 1st. That was a new document unsealed today that we learned about. And so now it's interesting to see the investigators coming back and collecting more items here at the scene when they have not been here, Vinny, for quite a while, especially after the arrest.
So, but the defense has been inside that home, right? The defense and defense and their investigator?
That's right. When we were here on the ground, I believe it was Tuesday, the defense attorney, the court-appointed defense attorney, public defender from Kootenai County, Ann Taylor, was here. She went into this home for quite a while. She had a defense investigator with her who spent most of the day here inside the home. So, again, the court granting them the right to stop this, to preserve this scene, so they had the opportunity to come in here, do their own investigation, preserve this so that could be complete and preserve the defendant's rights. And so they have been here even before Kohberger was actually back in the state, Vinny.
And one final follow-up on that. So is it clear today whether this was the removal of personal items to be, or the remediation, and they're going to clean it out for the owner to perhaps try to re-let or do whatever they're going to do with this house?
That's was one of my initial thoughts, but if you remember last Friday when the remediation or the cleanup crew was here at the home, it was a private company. These are the actual investigators. These are these crime scene investigators who were here day one, taking evidence, dusting fingerprints with the CSI crew, Vinny. So this seems like this was evidence, potential evidence taken, not just cleanup. And if we look at there is the mattress cover, like a white fitted sheet over the mattress, but you can see darker spots on there. Maybe this is the actual mattress. We don't know for sure, but it would be, I would think, this private company, it was just for the cleanup and removing of personal items, but these are the actual people who've been there taking evidence out of the house. So that was interesting, Vinny.
Fascinating. All right, Charlie Painter, stand by. Let's bring in our investigator joining us tonight in Madison, Mississippi, retired FBI agent, expertise in electronic surveillance, aerial surveillance, and cyber investigations. Jose Orench is with us. Jose, great to see you tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. What's your take on what was happening today at the house with the Idaho State Police there removing, it seemed like, mattresses, headboards, etc.?
Hi, Vinny, and thank you for having me. It's kind of hard to, or not hard, but it's something you don't really want to speculate on what they're doing. But my take on it would be that in the investigation that they're conducting, they may have found additional evidence, whether it's through interviews or other technical sources of information, that have led them to believe that there is additional evidence that is still in the rooms that they need to go through to follow up on the leads that they've developed. so far in your additional leads that they have developed in the investigation.
So let's talk about the timeline that investigators have put together here now as well. It seems like it's very specific, a lot of timestamps. They're using information from the cell phones. They're using surveillance video, putting it all together. To me, in the time that I've been covering trials, this is the biggest change in the world of investigations, is that everything seems so much more precise, and it seems like investigators are getting a better idea of where and when suspects are because of this new type of evidence.
Yeah, that's correct. So after reviewing the affidavit, what I did was I kind of broke it down into 7 investigative milestones, or an important different chain of events, things that the investigators came up with in order to develop that probable cause affidavit. Number 1, they did the initial interviews conducted at the location at the crime scene, and that initial interview allows them to establish a timeline and more or less narrow down when they think the murders occurred. Subsequent to obtaining that information, now that they have a timeline, they narrow down a time frame of what kind of video footage they would be interested in, and that's when they do their video canvas, which is done to corroborate timelines and to generate new leads. That was probably the most time-consuming, would be my guess, of part of this investigation, depending on how wide that footprint of video cameras that they canvassed was. When you're first looking at video cameras from nearby areas of a crime scene, you don't know what you're looking for. So everything has to be reviewed in real time. And this takes up a lot of law enforcement resources. Once they narrow down the interest in this white Elantra, that makes things a little quicker because there is software that will allow you to speed up through cameras and speed up time to get to points where parts or this entire vehicle is seen on the cameras. So that was step 2. Number 3 is once they've identified that white Elantra, they were able to locate the vehicle at the apartments at Washington State University, and that allowed them to identify the owner. Once the owner of that vehicle was identified, they were able to determine that this owner matched the description of that the eyewitness gave of the person they saw walking through the house that night.
Jose, let me just cut you off there for 1 second, Jose. I got to sneak in a quick break, and then we'll hear the rest of your analysis. This is fascinating. Appreciate it. Jose Arenz staying with us. Chanley Painter still in Moscow. Plus, coming up next hour.
On the docket tonight in Kenosha, Wisconsin, the next live trial on Court TV. Mark Jensen was convicted of murdering his wife with antifreeze back in 2008. But now, that conviction has been overturned, and a key piece of evidence for the prosecution has been thrown out. Will he win his retrial and be set free? We have a preview.
He's saying he didn't do it, and I told him that a person in their right mind, regardless of what they're going through, is not going to consume and put poison in their body.
74-year-old woman accused of bludgeoning her husband and leaving him to die.
No food, no water, no medical attention.
The Left for Dead murder trial, starting Monday morning at 9/8 Central on Court TV.
New crime.
Just the ultimate betrayal.
New cases.
You are the killer.
Committed by those closest to the victim.
Someone They Knew with Tamron Hall. New season coming soon, only on Court TV.
Safely be you.
Welcome back. We're still going through this probable cause affidavit. Incredible information in here. Let's go straight out to Chanley Painter, who's in Moscow, Idaho, outside of the crime scene tonight. Chanley, we learned a lot in this affidavit about the movements of the suspect vehicle just before the murders.
We really did. The authorities collecting surveillance video in this neighborhood where I'm standing right now surrounding this crime scene. They call it the King Street neighborhood. And they denote the movements of that white Hyundai Elantra they've allegedly connected to Bryan Kohberger and his cell phone movements at 3:29 a.m. the morning of November 13th. So this is what the affidavit says. The sightings on these multiple camera videos in this neighborhood show what they call suspect vehicle 1, making an initial 3 passes by this house, 1122 King Road, and then leave via Walenta Drive. Here's a map. Now, we don't know how he actually arrived here to King and Queen Road you see there, whether it's by Walenta Drive, the way he left, according to this affidavit, or Taylor Avenue, where the University of Idaho campus borders. But this gives you a depiction of what this King and Queen Road would look like and how he would pass through in front of this crime scene home into the apartments, turn around at the dead end, and come back. But that's what we learned, that there were 3 passes starting at 3:29 a.m., Vinny, before the affidavit says that he actually would go into this home. Here's video of a car passing the home where I'm standing. This is that road right in front of the house here that would go eastbound on Queen Road, even though this address is King Road. It's a little confusing there, but this is eastbound towards the dead-end apartment buildings here, where he would have then turned around and come back down. But that's a view from this home to the road in front of it with the car passing by in the front. Here's inside the vehicle view. So this is us driving from King Road to Queen Road. And again, on the right side, you will start to see the crime scene come up on the right side. So this is the view driving eastbound on Queen Road towards the dead-end apartment buildings. And on the right, you're going to see here the crime scene home. This is all the investigators' vehicles that were here earlier today collecting those mattresses and boxes. And he would continue on, of course, going straight to turn around and come back. But that's a view of what passing by this home would be. And then again, this is video collected from these neighboring homes in this area, pinpointing this white Hyundai Elantra that they say Bryan Kohberger was driving starting at 3:29 a.m., making these passing drive-bys, Vinny.
Quick question, because then I want to get to the rest of this as well. As you drive past and you see those windows, which floors are that? Which bedrooms do you see as you're doing that pass by? Because if this car is casing the joint to see if anyone's awake, whose windows are you seeing?
Absolutely. So there's one way in and one way out of this road. So this is the only way in to this home, what you're looking at right now. Again, moving eastbound on Queen Road, you're going to see the house come up on the right side here. And what you're going to see is you're going to see first the front door of the home. It's going to be hard because there's going to be all the law enforcement vehicles in front of the home, but you have the first floor with the front door where they're going in and out, and that would be one of the roommates, Bethany, on that floor. The second floor, if we have the front of the home, the second floor, the right window on the second floor would be Xana Kernodle's room, where Xana and Ethan would be. The left second floor window, I could even show you here behind me. You can see it. It's dark here on the second floor. That is the living room area of this home, where the first floor steps would come up, the living room area. On the back side of this second floor room, this living room area would be Dylan Mortenson's room on the second floor, Vinny. That gives you perspective. And then moving on up, of course, above this camera angle where I am, would be the third floor, where Kaylee Gonsalves and Maddie Mogan would be at that time that car was passing by this home.
Absolutely. I want to show the folks at home some maps, because I know you have some more video to show us. Let's take a look at this map. This is, again, you see the crime scene. Let's zoom in on that crime scene. That's the home. And Shanley keeps talking about Queen Road. So at 4:04 in the morning, there's a fourth time that the suspect vehicle goes down Queen Road and then sort of turns around in front of that apartment complex, 500 Queen Road. Then you see it start to move forward and then stops. And they think it's either attempting to park or make some sort of a maneuver right in front of the car on Queen Road. But then it starts to move again and goes towards the intersection of King and Queen Road, and that's where it makes one of those three-point turns, a K-turn. It turns around in that intersection and then heads back east on Queen Road, again towards the home. Now, Chanley, I know you put together some video showing all of this, because this is significant. This is 4:04. This is when the car makes its final pass, and then it's time to break into the home and commit a murder.
Exactly. So again, we started at 3:29 a.m. So this is more than 30 minutes later, 3 passes by this home later. This is the 4th time, like you said, 4:04 a.m. again, making its way east on Queen Road one more time. This is the only way into this area. You see the crime scene to the right. He, according to this affidavit, continues on straight past these apartment buildings on the right and would make, it's a very narrow road, as you can see. I've spoke to most of these neighbors that live here on this road, this apartment complex. You would have to go all the way towards the end of this narrow road before you could turn around. It's going to be apartment number 52, according to the affidavit. In this area, this wider circle area where that white Hyundai Elantra turned around, according to this affidavit, and then goes back down the hill west on Queen Road, where he passes the crime scene one more time. It would have been on his left side, his driver's side of the car at that time, and according to the affidavit, that's when he sort of fails to either turn around, attempts to kind of park or turn around there right in front of the home. Remember those tire marks, Vinny, on this road that I'm showing you? They would be about where that red car is in front in this video, where those tire marks were. So he would continue down, he'd pass it after this failed attempt to park or turn around in front of the home, and then see the intersection further down where King and Queen meet. He does a 3-point turn there before heading back to this home where, according to this affidavit, committed these murders within about 16 minutes before speeding off at 4:20 a.m. this direction out Valencia Road.
So let me ask you, Chanley, at 4:04, when all this is happening, what we're showing the folks right now, what's going on inside the house?
At 4:04, well, around 4 a.m., according to the affidavit, there was a DoorDash food delivery delivered to the home, and that was ordered by Xana Kernodle, the second floor room. She ordered food. I believe it was like Jack in the Box, according to some photos we've seen inside the home, possibly, not for sure, but she orders food. So there's a DoorDash driver here that delivers food, and I'm presuming to this front door of the home from 4 a.m. We also know about 4:12 a.m. that Xana is on her TikTok app. Again, in the second floor room, would be this side of me. If I look this way, kind of dark this above the private car here, that would be Xana's room on the second floor where her and Ethan were. She's on her TikTok app in that room at 4:12 a.m., Vinny. So we know that's going on at the time. And then there's this gap where this white car's picked up at 4:20 a.m. speeding away. Maybe that's when the tire marks were left right out here in front. And then exiting Valencia Drive, which is a dense neighborhood. You'd have to kind of know where you're going to get out of here that direction.
Great work, Chanley. I mean, we really got, and great job by the crew out there in Moscow that's working with you, to really give us an idea. I mean, it's a very small area. You're making all these passes by. You can see all the windows. You know what's lit, what's not lit. And he's in the area for like a half hour. All right, Chanley, I know we're going to speak at the top of next hour. You're going to walk us through the floor plan of the home, and we'll talk about the surviving roommate. But right now I want to bring back in Jose Orench, retired FBI agent. Jose, we've gone through this. I know you've gone through this affidavit in great detail. Let me ask you about a killer who is passing by. He's about to commit quadruple murder, kind of passes by 3 times, looks like he's about to park, then turns around, comes back again. Does this tell you anything about this guy? Is this a very sophisticated murderer, a first-time murderer? Does it reveal anything when we think about these actions in that half hour leading up to the time that he gets inside that home?
Yeah, that's kind of something that would be left up to FBI profilers to be able to give you a better answer on what the mindset is of someone that's doing these things. Again, my expertise is more in the area of electronic surveillance and forensic evidence.
Gotcha. So if you can give me, we have about a minute left, a little less than a minute. Give us sort of the wrap up of what you take away from this affidavit.
Yeah, so the wrap up, we were up on the owner of the vehicle matching the eyewitness description. With this, they were able to also determine that the suspect had interactions with law enforcement, and that's how they obtained the cell phone, which was crucial because that cell phone number is what they used to obtain the cell site location and the whereabouts of the cell phone on the times that it was on, and it matched the vehicle suspect locations. And then the final milestone that I captured from here was the trash cover that they did at the suspect's family, where they were able to obtain DNA that they compared with DNA that was found on an item at the crime scene, and that was the final piece of information that they needed, or they determined that they needed to do their arrest warrant affidavit.
Jose, appreciate your time. So much experience. We'll speak again. Thank you so much.